Now this is the other side of central New York. Last time we did a video driving, it was a beautiful fall day. Well, this is the beginning of another week of snow. We've had snow non-stop. And this is I guess it's about a 3-day snow event about to happen. So why am I driving? I don't know. I'll go down and visit Bob. We may put together a video. The focus of the video, if we do one, is going back to that Husqvarna 61 through 272 chassis, along with the Jonsered counterparts, the 625 through 670 chassis. You know, and I got a bunch of stuff in the car. We might be able to put together a video today. The first thing I have to do is get there safely.
Continues tomorrow, near 30 degrees, 2 to 4 inches of snow, and snow possibly heavy at times on Monday, lower 20s. I'm meteorologist Michael Frascio on Route 97.
Well, we're essentially here. I guess we're going to go over to Route 214 and head south a couple miles, and that's where Todd has his landing. And he's a snowplow driver, like I am. And this is the road he plows, or one of them. Now, this is the Firewood operation. Todd's got a processor, and it looks like we're going to start today by putting some wood on that thing and having it split and have it land right in the back of his truck. Well, minor little hitching to get along. Chain broke, but I think Todd has a repair link. It's a pretty cool processor right there. You sort of set them on that rack, brings them in, and you can see where there's a saw blade, chops them off, and then pushes it into that splitter. Put a link in there, and guess what? Todd's got it going in about 5 minutes. They're all ready to go. Tell you what, I was driving down 214. That's his route, and I can tell you from a plow driver's perspective, that road is one pain in the ass to drive with a plow because of the turns, the narrowness with the guardrail. Well, stuff is landing in the back of the truck, so we're going to go drop some more trees for him. Let him finish splitting this wood. Yeah, this is old farts logging. We're going to work that hillside today. Make-believe logging. Bob's going to go clean some brush out, and one of us is going to go brave that snow and drop a couple of those trees. Yeah. We figured the smaller the saw, the better. So I'm going to use my 345. I don't know, Bob. Once you're up there, you might as well just stay there. I said, once you're up there, you might as well just stay there. Yeah, he's clearing out some of the brush so we can work around those trees a little bit. Todd needs, I don't know, 5 or 6 of them.
22 degrees here.
It's running.
Okay. So which one's he going to do first? I'm thinking the ash and the birch and the one in the middle. Both carrying small saws to go up the hillside. And Walt has a little more of his own weight to get up the hillside than I do. That comment will no doubt be edited out. He's going to do the diagonal route. Kind of windy, you can see the snow. And it's about 22 degrees here. Kind of a nice day to be playing with saws in the winter. And what we're going to do is drop these. They're going to reach a ways out into the field so we can yank them with the chain. Then top them, take the brush out, and Todd's going to get them on his little homemade firewood truck and take them down to that processor. That one he's got his arm on there, to me I think that's a little bit tangled up in the ash. So the ash probably ought to go first. Something's not right with that saw. Looks like a lot of smoke. Wondered about his chain there. 272 or 670 might have already had this on the ground, but this is part of the experiment. You know, it's like we're getting too old and cranky to drag the big saws up the hill. Really just a test. Not that we're necessarily we can't do it. We say, you know what? But going up and down that hill, which you really can't tell, I don't think, from the camera, just how steep it is. Maybe I'll have to go halfway up and we'll get a shot of that. But and she's starting to go. On the ground.
Chain's whooped.
Yes, I made a comment about that. Just like that was just, you could actually see the smoke from here. 372, 18-inch Sugi.
I don't know why it's whooped, but it's whooped.
Yeah, it wasn't cutting pretty good.
Nope. Shit, it was cut like I put it on backwards. Here's the break.
There you go. That's confirmation. That chain, as I thought on a little saw, was totally whooped. It's a little deep right there. There comes the birch. That's nice and up in the air too. Alright, I think we should shut this off. I don't know how to shut it off. There it is.
Well, that kind of sucked. I ended up having to resort to using this saw right here. This was that Meteor saw. It's kind of my backup main saw. I always carry it for situations just like this. While Bob's actually getting some work done, I'm going to see if I can salvage that chain. Oh yeah. That's pretty whooped. Ah, darn it. I have to file the crap out of that. Looks like it must have hit a nail or something. Hey, he's over there somewhere. And this is what I do that drives Bob nuts. When I got a chain that's that whooped, is I use a file which is the next size larger to cut that, cut it back a little bit first. Instead of trying to file it back with the right size, you got to kind of cut it. And I know this is not going to be the best chain. It's probably never going to be worth a crap again, but I bet it cuts wood today. And it's what I can do. Like that tooth right there is rounded right off. And I am not recommending you do this, but because there's a lot better ways of doing it, like bring it to a guy with a chain sharpener. It'll get me going for today. Alright, once I've cut those teeth back, then I'm going to take the right size file, put the hook back in. Then after I do that, I'll get the rakers. It sounds to me like Todd is back. And once I got them cut, finish them off with getting the raker set at about 28 thousandths. And then we'll see if this chain will actually cut. Bob's getting everything prepped while we're playing. He's doing the hard work.
Okay, a little perspective here. We're shooting from up the hill now. Walt's going to drop a few more as he makes his way up. It's kind of steep, and I thought it might be interesting to see, try to get a little perspective of the hill that we got to cut.
Nothing to grab onto.
From up here. No handles down there to grab to. He's going to take down a few of these right here. And I don't think I'm even up all the way, but going to back it up a little bit in a second and see just how much of this hill we got to cut. Going over here, that's the other property. So you figure from that house coming up the hill, and there you go. Actually, the side hill gives a little perspective here. And I can do this slow enough so that it's watchable. And that's good. Yeah, and this camera's level. So this is a little slope that we're on here in snow. Sometimes the snow is good for your footing, and sometimes you go skiing. So looking down, like I said, we're going to actually cut up probably another 100 feet. So Walt's going to drop a few more with a 61 Husqvarna white top that's been converted to a 272. And needed surgery to do that. You can't even see him down there. I'm just going to try to move sideways a little bit. Try not to drop his expensive camera in the snow here. There we go. Here again, we're gonna go slow. One down. A couple more of these trees are going to have to go. And it looks like Walter is eyeing up another one here. Kind of a double. You gotta do a little more thinking. Okay, this will be the last tree of the day.
Well, we just got back from working at Todd's Landing, and we've had some requests on some of these hybrid saws we did on the 272 chassis. And what I mean by 272 chassis, that's a whole range of models from both Husqvarna and Jonsered. starting with the 61s and going to the 272s. This one here is one I did a while back, and I'm going to try to review what I remember, but what I had done on this saw was had taken a early white top 61 Husqvarna, and this one was made literally in 1978. It's one of the early ones. It's a twin coil ignition system, and I grafted a 272 top end on it. To do that, I had to use a 272 manifold block. I used the 61 carburetor, but you could use a 272. It doesn't matter because the controls hook up the same. And I built this muffler and modded this muffler, and I put it together with no base gasket. Now, the kind of things I had to solve were things like the fins on the 272 were larger than the 61, so I had to relieve the cover some in order to have it fit in there. That was part of the fun. Here's the spark plug and there's the fin. And I had to graft the 61 intake to the 272 top end. And if I remember correctly, the screws that go from the intake manifold to the cylinder were different. So I believe I had to open up the holes on this to accept the different intake screws. You're going to have to correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Yeah, on the early ones, yeah.
Yeah.
The later 61s, you won't run into that.
So, I mean, this was basically a bolt-together package. I had done it a couple of years back. I did it just to prove that you can. Now, Bob has done some more. We had done a couple of builds where we proved that we can blend the manifold pulsed carburetors, that system, to the Jonsereds, which were pulsed with the pulse line. But anyway, I digress. Bob needs to take over this video.
All right. Well, first of all, let's go this way instead. This is also started out as a 61, and 61s. And this is a little bit of a follow-up to the earlier saw college. And a couple guys asked us, just focus on saws that are these oddball, crazy combinations of different things. This is kind of what we call the middle generation 61. The early white tops like Walt has there. This is one of the gray top saws. Matter of fact, this is the 300th anniversary one from 1989. And I converted this one to a Jonsered 630, which was kind of an easy thing to do. It uses a slightly different, a unique manifold block, which is the 266 Husky and a 630 Jonsered. This otherwise is a stock saw, pretty much a straightforward bolt-on. Other than between the earlier and later 61s, you see the difference in the filter holders, and you get away from that single screw filter, and you go to the twin size filters here. This was pretty much that was just like an easy bolt-on. And essentially you could say, yeah, it's a 630 Jonsered cylinder, or you could just say it's identical to like a 266, but it's a 48 millimeter instead of a 50.
But do they have this? They have a different intake block, don't they? Or is it the same intake block as a 272?
Nope, they're different.
So Jonsered's unique there.
Well, not Jonsered unique. This was unique to the 266 Husky, or the 162 Husky, or the 630 Jonsered. They used an intake block that was unique to them. The 61 used its own block, and then the 268 and the 272 used this block here, which you have to use on here. And it's they just look a little different on the intake. We only got one example here, which is a 272, which is what that is right there. But they're all, like I said, there's 3 different blocks. It's really not as complicated as it looks.
But basically what you did there is you just took a whole 630 top end and bolted it onto the 61 bottom end.
Right.
Cylinder, carburetor, everything.
Yeah, and this saw is completely stock. It's
well,
actually,
other than it has 2 different brands.
Yeah, well, yeah, but it's
but stock components.
Yeah, right. It's a blend of the 630 top end on a 61. But there's the gaskets in there, and there's I didn't poke any holes in the muffler or anything like that.
Oh, while we're doing that, I do remember some things now. See, jogged the memory.
There you go.
On this muffler, I used the 61's muffler, and I modded that. And the reason is the 61's muffler is a little shorter than the 272's. It would fit underneath this cover. And I had to remount the holes to accept the larger muffler bolts for the 272 cylinder. That's one thing. And yes, I did have to open that up. And the other thing I did to this intake was I really did some die grind work on it to open it up, because this thing really wanted some air. I don't know if you can see, but the cross-sectional area after I was done was significantly more than it was stock. I don't know if we have a stock one, but actually worked out pretty well.
This is pretty much the same filter horn that's used on all of them.
Yeah. This carburetor, it could have been the original 61 or the 272, it doesn't matter. What does matter is I had to use this filter horn and air filter, because that's all that would fit underneath the white cap. If I'd gone to the gray cover, you know, maybe I could have put a different filter arrangement on there, but keeping the white top, I had to use this intake horn, or air filter holder. What do you call that thing?
The filter holder.
I had to use that filter holder. But anyway, 61 filter holder, you could use either carburetor, 272 intake manifold, 272 cylinder, modified 61 muffler. I had to open up the holes in the muffler to accept the larger bolts, and I had to do some die grind work and open up the holes on the filter holder to accept the screws that hold that whole thing together for a 272, because they're different than a 61. Other than that, and then hacking up the cover, that's what I did. And of course what Bob did here is he just basically swapped the top end. Now, that saw.
Oh, well, that's my favorite. And everything bolted on. You actually had to make alterations to specific parts to make that work.
Yes.
You know, some of those parts couldn't just be bolted on, so it's not just a matter of you know, mixing different things. This one is started out as a 625 Jonsered, and the guy wiped it, and like most of my stuff comes to me, it's people don't want to fix something, and he had wrecked the tank. The whole bottom, the back handle wasn't really working right. It was all busted up. So I had a really nice 670 top end, which I put on there. So here again, that part of it was really easy to do, because this is the same 625 carburetor with the pulse line. So that wasn't really, this part of it was pretty much a bolt-on affair. Essentially just putting the 670 piston and cylinder on where the 625 cylinder was. And these are all early twin coil saws, all three of these. And I guess you want to just back off to this now. And just to answer a question that comes up a lot, this is the twin coil. Of course, none of the coils are in these things, because these are just some of the next projects. You get one coil here, and then the secondary coil here. In the single coil saws, and that's what this case is, there's just the one coil that sits here. Now, people a lot of times ask on the sites and things, hey, you know, can I just go with the one coil and bolt it into this saw? And the answer is no. And you can see
Totally different shape.
Yeah, different shape, and you want to see the different orientation of the two bolts that hold the coil in. You got these two here coming at that angle, and then these two there. So no, you can't do that. It would be nice if you could. You can still get these coils OEM. They're really expensive. They're like 80 bucks a pop. They're pricey.
Okay.
All right, so that's what we say, like the twin coil, and that's kind of what that's about. This one we did modify a little bit. You know, I got rid of the gasket. I did a real high-tech muffler mod here. That's almost what we call the 45 caliber muffler mod. I just popped some holes in there. I kind of wish I didn't. Well, I mean, I'm glad that I didn't saw it, but these lower profile mufflers are no longer available. And I know like at least one aftermarket muffler that you can get, and it's really not that good. So, you know, kind of be careful hacking up those mufflers, because you can't replace them. And the top covers on these things, There's different top covers also on the early and late saws. They don't quite interchange. And if you put the newer taller muffler on one of these, it's actually going to hit the top. Not really a big deal. Now what you notice about this thing is when I wanted to rebuild this, like I mentioned, the guy had wrecked the tank. And I didn't have a red tank at the time. But I had some orange tanks laying around. So that's what this thing is. Got the orange tank and then the Husky top handle, which makes it really ugly. I've since actually got a tank for it, but I want to leave it ugly. It's got its own little character now. And what's kind of cool about this is that you can see, maybe if I turn it this way, there's two different ways to set your high idle. With the Jonsered style, you got the little cam here, sets it with that, or you could set it Husky style with the trigger. So other than that, but that's just some, so these saws have just been kind of altered a little bit. I didn't have to do anything and actually change any of the parts like you did on yours in order to make them fit. One little thing, and this was also in the other saw college that we did, but when doing the project stuff, these are the actual Jonsered filters, a little bit of a lower profile. These were used on 625, 630, 670, and also on the 920, or the 930s and the 830s. Can't get them anymore. No longer available. However, if you do need one, the Husky filter, which is the 266 and the 268 filter, does fit here, and even with that crown there, it doesn't interfere with the filter cover. So when somebody says, oh, you can't get a filter for the 670s or 630s, tell them you can. There's plenty of OEM and aftermarket options for those. So that's really, I don't know, that was just a little bit of an overview of 3 of these saws that were altered a little bit, and they're not just the way they came out of the box. So they're all got a little bit of a different mixed personality here.
And they were used today. I think part of the point of this is these are fun saws to build if you're a hobbyist and a saw geek. They really are a fun chassis to work on. But more importantly, they're very useful. And I use this one here today. That's why it's full of chips. And, you know, it's got good power. It really does. You know, you see me running my 372s and all that stuff. Fact of the matter is that's a really nice package of weight and power. It's a very, very functional saw, and so are these other two. And, you know, they're not that expensive to build, and depending on how much creativity you have and skill set you have, you can do an awful lot with this chassis. And so these 3 here are just 3 different permutations of the same theme. Basically what we did here is taking some of the earliest chassis and then put some of the later model upgraded top ends on them, and that's really what this is about. Now that's kind of a herky-jerky video, but we get the point across.
Yeah, it may need some
Editing
to make it go smooth.
Yeah.
But I had fun running this today. It's good to drag these things out now and then.
Show and tell.
Well, not this thing. There's nothing interesting about this.
The other one's great though. Okay, you got it.
Let me put it up on the counter here.
All right, I'll get it. This is the stuff that you can't make up.
Yeah, this came in yesterday afternoon. This is one of my customers, local Firewood producer. John, I'm making you famous today. I don't know if you watch this stuff, but this bungee cord is what holds the starter on. And he's egged out all these holes by putting all kinds of hardware from the kitchen drawer in there. So these 2 holes are destroyed. This part of the case is gone, so there's nothing left there to screw that into. So he's got no way to hold the starter. Now the saw actually runs pretty good, and it's really not that old. It's an 07. But you know, until we find a good bottom end, we're just keeping it going. And the only reason it's here is apparently it needs a starter spring, and I got to replace the clip. You know, that he has put this aluminum tape on. But this is the kind of stuff guys run. You know, we can get so fussy over the least little thing, but there's a lot of people out there This is one of my favorite 372s.